Hello and welcome back to this Porsche 914 engine repair. So if you're not watching any of the previous videos, I've pulled this engine out because the exhaust headers are leaking, and as it turns out some of the threads had been repaired in the head before and all the previous work's been stripped out. I actually found an epoxy 2-pack mixed, either chemical metal or something or other in there, which was just holding the stud in, so it was never going to hold for long. So what we're going to do in this video is actually pull off the heads. If you've got an engine out, you might as well leave it in its raw state and give it a good inspection over and just see what really needs doing. And it's a 2056 engine, which is slightly stroked, and I've heard the name Jake Raby. So Jake Raby, if you don't know, is a bit of an engine builder, but this engine seems to be a little bit special. It's recently been rebuilt for motorsport, hill climbing, other sorts. Before pulling it, I did actually check all the valve clearances, so I've got a before and after. So on the initial inspection, I did loosen off some of this tinware to make it easier, and actually found an unused body filler spreader, so could always need one of them. Also, there's a little bit of something or other in there. The belt looks a little bit loose. I think that should be a bit tighter. So we can definitely see the heads have been ported. Some markings on the heads. So we've got a 1 and a 2. Funnily enough, that's cylinder 1, cylinder 2. Quite a bit of porting. I do actually like that. That's quite a good job looking at it. So we'll have to clean up some seals. There's quite a few bits of oil just dripping from these push rod tubes, so we may have to reseal those up, which is probably always best practice. So we've got the fan and the ducting off and all the tinware around. We can start accessing these heads. You know, the more we look inside them, the more tidy they look. I've got promising things for this. It's just a pity that those threads have been done. So it would be nice to keep this engine 100% together. But as I said, we do not know what we're expecting to find. We don't know when it's been built, whether it was recently rebuilt with all the Jake Raby parts, or whether they've been on there for some time. We may never know. But I was very dubious about the valve clearances when I checked them actually in the car. So I was able to check them just by popping it into gear, actually rotating one of the wheels, just checking them with feeler gauges, and not one of them was consistent really. The cam covers have been off before because I've checked them. They have been glued together. A nice big lack of silicone, but they were leaking a little bit, so we might check what those are. We may put some more core gaskets on there. Well, that's interesting. Something you don't see every day. That has got silicone, probably from when the gaskets had previously gone on. So I'm guessing that black silicone is more recent than these, because that's fresh, and this had the orange stuff on, which I've come across the orange stuff before. So let's strip them down, but it hasn't got the Porsche ends of the tappets. Okay, that's interesting. So the difference is with the Porsche tappets is that it's got a little ball on the end, so it's able to sit flush, so you might be able to see there that it's at an angle, but yet that one that's down is a little bit more flat, so that helps it wear out a little bit quicker. But let's get these out. So it looks like there's 11 mils on these, and I'm going to back these off just as it is now, because they're not going to stay the same. this one's off the rock, as I seem to call it, and that one's on. Last thing I'm going to do is completely undo those, so we have got a little bit of leeway on there to take some pressure off, because we've cracked it off. What's that going to, because the valve is currently open, so it's all spring loaded. So it might be just see the tension coming off here. So that's going to be a lot less tension. So let's just undo these nicely. Oh, that wasn't very tight. No. Okay, not very tight indeed. I'm not sure what the torque should be on that, but I can just tell they're a lot less than they should be. So that's unusual. These two had washers on. These two haven't got washers on. So there seems just to be a little bit of inconsistency on the build here. So we had two washers just to raise the height of these. So that's almost as if there is something slightly different either with these valves or with the cam profile. So I'm pretty much going to put everything back as it was, not unless I find something that I'm really concerned about. So they're push rods. Now I don't know whether they're stock or not stock. Looking at it, be interesting. I'll take some measurements on them later on just to check. They're not solid because they've got oil in them. So we have to take these guide tubes out now, which I think we will. See, they look fairly new, don't they? With decent oil cells, but they have been leaking. So I'm going to take the spark plugs out. Just looking at it, they look too small. I think they should be the slightly bigger version. It's certainly got different type of plugs in there, because what I think should be in there is what's known as the 14mm, which is the diameter of the thread. That's got an 18mm, so it's probably running a slightly hotter plug. Could be standard for one of them. Could be standard for the spec of the engine. So now we're ready to take off the actual heads. This is the exciting bit. So they look fairly standard. We'll just undo them. We'll crack them all off in sequence. So I don't mind using power tools, providing you're very gentle with them. So I don't really like using them to crack off anything. But for when it comes to actual unwinding and just winding off, it can make things a lot more easier. Let's see if there's anything still screwed in. Go back to basics. Yeah, there's a number on there. See, that one's been running definitely lean on that bank for whatever reason. Okay, that's intriguing. Okay, that looks about right for this sort of year of the car it is. I'm running carburetors. Actual bores look good. Heads look fairly new. Possibly a recasting of the original, because that's not very clear. Definitely had some foam silicone on there. That's the red one. Don't know what the difference is between that and the other one. It's all stuff I should really find out, but I'll see if I can source some of that. It's breather pipe. It's just a bit of aluminium put in there, and it's very loose. So I don't like the look of that really. So that's something I can improve on. There's a little bit of a crack along there, so I don't know whether it's been dropped, moved to casting mark. That fin just looks a little bit more in. So let's turn them up. Oh, that's interesting. So that one has definitely got 57cc on there. So is that how many cubic cc's are actually in that? So are these heads ported and matched for the cylinder capacity? That's where the extra work goes into a blueprinting engine. So I'm going to clean up the other markings. Right, let's have a look at the actual damage. So this is the one that's the worst damage in there. So you can see how much of a space is actually in there. Looking there, there's nothing holding it together, which is reassuring. Two of the banks are actually running lean, as you can actually see, both on those ones. One's got some etched markings of size, this one doesn't. This has got some numbers on there, between 2 and 3. So 3 mark there, 2 mark there. So maybe it's the way they're going around doing it. So we got those 2 heads off, and they're not in particularly great shape, are they? As I said before, one of them's a little bit mullered, which is definitely a UK term, which essentially means it's not very good. So I'm going to drop those heads off at guys at the machine shop, and they're going to see what they can do. So it's going to be a choice of 2 things: either take and re-drill it, or an insert. So I'm going to leave it up to them to examine them, and we'll see what they actually come back with. So in the next episode, hopefully, we're going to have the heads back all in one piece, build it back up, get it back in the car, hopefully get it running. That'd be lovely, wouldn't it? So if this sort of stuff you enjoy watching, or you've watched this far, thanks very much. Just give it a quick thumbs up, really helps the channel out. Also consider subscribing so you'll be able to see when next video comes out, which hopefully will be next weekend, or it's out now if you're watching in the future. That's in the past. I've never understood Back to the Future. I don't know how that works. So much for watching this far. I'm just going to go off on a completely other rant. Again, thumbs up, like, subscribe. Definitely subscribe, because come on, you can always unsubscribe in a couple of years, don't worry. Now I'm going to get inside before it chucks it down again. Winter's definitely coming. Ta-da!